Welcome to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township. You know those people that make laws, regulations, ordinances, those government entities out there, and those laws and so forth, they affect you.
And whether you live in the village of Oxford, the village of Leonard, Addison Township, or Oxford Township, these are the people that you elected and the commissions and the committees that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you attended those meetings or not, even if an issue came up that directly did affect you. So that's why we're here.
Right, almost.
Oh, well.
We're here to also kind of dissect it, take it apart, and see if we can find itty bits of humor, right?
Itty bits.
Itty bits. They're itty bits. Anyway, we're going to talk about a couple of meetings today, and the first one is going to be the Addison Parks and Rec, and that's always the fun
Oh,
one.
you always like them.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the bears. They want to cuddle up to you out there, and they're kind of cuddly. And then we're going to talk about the Oxford Township Planning Commission meeting that they had. It's a pretty extensive meeting from the township, from Oxford. But let's talk about Addison Parks and Rec. The chairperson for that is Rod Blasek, and Dave Kostek is on that board, along with Charlie Perenian, I think.
Okay.
His last name. I always have trouble with his last name. We'll change.
All apologies to you, Charlie.
Yes. Well, we're going to change, Charlie, we're going to change your name to Smith, if that's not a problem. Please let us know if it is. Otherwise, we'll change it to Jones, right?
Yeah, but I'm not going there.
You're not going there, okay. So anyway, so the first thing they did, of course, is they approved the agenda, which is part of the procedure. And then they said, well, let's read the minutes. And Charlie read the minutes. And
And that's what they do at that. They read the minutes, don't they?
They do, from beginning to end. So you know what everything that was covered
For the
originally.
benefit of the audience.
For the
too.
benefit of the audience.
Right.
And the benefit of you and
Maybe.
me.
Maybe other people should do
Part of
that.
the audience on this side of the camera, I guess.
Maybe other people should do that. It's kind of like, remember last week?
But some of these meetings that we go to, they last for hours,
And others last
Days.
for minutes.
months.
That doesn't mean
Anyway.
the minutes are that long. It only means the discussion was that long. The minutes should only really cover motions made and votes taken.
Okay, take a note and send it to them.
I certainly will.
Okay, let's see if they listen. Let me know how that works out for you. Okay, first thing, of course, they asked for was supervisor's report from Addison Township, and that would be Bruce Pearson. And Bruce said, well, there's a couple of things he wanted to talk about, and the first thing was the signs for Watershed, I believe Watershed East. They're going to put some new signs, and he said, what's the good news I have for you and bad news?
Oh, what was the good news?
Good news was somebody has donated materials for it.
And the bad news.
How's your penmanship?
Oh, dear.
No, I think he's going to work that out too. Anyway, Bruce did a pretty good job in lining this up, and they're going to, I guess, have the signs ready and to be hung, by springtime.
Are these going to be painted signs or carved signs?
Oh, they will be painted, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Even better. Painted
Even-
and carved.
Painted and carved. Could be. I don't know. We'll have to check on that. But take
All right.
another note. Anyway,
Building up.
okay. And he said also concerning the Lake George barn. We had talked about garage doors.
Oh, yeah.
I guess right now there's kind of wind going through because there's no doors.
That's well ventilated.
It is well ventilated, but they're going to downsize the doors. I guess they're 16-foot doors now, so forth. And then the door in the back of the barn slides, and they're going to have that one as an overhead door also. But they're going to change, I believe, to either an 8 or a 10-foot door.
Automatic door or a pull-up?
No, well, I don't know. Eventually, they may work their way into an automatic door if they can get the squirrels to pull the rope.
Oh, well.
But I'm not sure. So right now it'll be, lift and tug, to get that door up above.
Give a squirrel enough acorns, they'll do anything for you.
Yes, they know. You should know.
I should know.
Anyway, jump through the hoop. Anyway, he said that he has somebody who is actually going to donate the doors and probably installation if they can get the committee to frame it in, then it'll all be covered. So that's a pretty good deal. And I find out there in Addison Township and Leonard too that there's a lot of volunteers that come in and help, which is a really neat thing. They say, hey, we're going to have a work session here. Everybody show up if you can.
You know what they call that?
Picnic.
Community spirit.
Oh, I thought it was a picnic. That's
Oh,
what
well.
they have around here. But they have it there too.
Or free pizza, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than pizza. I mean, they have some pretty good spreads sometimes, for luncheons. But anyway, so that takes care of the garage for Lake George. They said also for Watershed East, that they're talking about putting a building in there, and Bruce Pearson said, well, I do know that there's a couple of companies that have sales on these garage packages, and we should probably look at that. Remember they were going to move the one
Yeah.
garage? Well, they're not going to move it now, I guess.
Oh.
They're going to check on it, and they're going to see
It's their prerogative to change their mind.
what it is. Yes.
And they did.
Well, yes. Well, they're sending out bids right now. They're going to go to a couple of stores like Menards and so forth to check and see what the packages are. But Bruce Pearson said that he saw where you could get a package for about $3,000 for a 20 by 30 building. It's a pretty good sized building. It's a
Yeah, it
garage
is.
type
Yeah.
building. And they want to put their tractor in there, and like Charlie pointed out, you know, in the wintertime they could put their benches in there. And that kind
Outside of the
thing.
building, though, they still have, is it a laid floor or a plastic floor?
No, it'll be a cement floor.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
So they'll have to, and there is a guy that also has said that he will donate the cement and the labor, you know,
Wow.
for that floor. So that's what I mean. I mean, everybody pitches in out there. You want to build a house out there? Now's the time.
No, but you got a lot of
So I
people
need
who want
help.
to get in on the ground floor.
Yeah, right. By the way, that came up at one point. They said when they were looking at the amount of people, you know, that move into the area, in Leonard, for example, and they said, what can we expect in terms of future? They said, well, we do have people coming here all the time, and we are growing, you know, as an area, but not too fast. And they said, well, what about the people that are leaving? And Bruce Pearson said, people don't leave. He
Crazy?
said,
What?
If they leave, they have a toe tag on them. they like Addison. People just don't leave.
They have to get permission.
They have to get permission. But anyway, so I thought that was rather interesting. Bills came up. Any bills? Nope, no bills.
No
Can you
bills.
imagine that? No bills.
No bills?
No.
Wow.
No. Apparently, no expenses, no bills.
Well, those volunteers are really doing their job.
They're doing a great job pitching in. Old business. They said, remember the pitch pump we were talking about?
The pitch pump.
Pitch pump. And they were talking about that for Watershed East.
Otherwise known as your old hand crank pump.
Oh, yeah, but they run into a snag.
A
You
snag?
say snag?
Snag.
Right. It appears that the water department, or not the water department, but what do they call them? The health department.
State?
Yeah,
Or
the county. They said that the restraints to do that, just to pound a pipe down and put a pump on it, isn't the way they have to go. In other words, they have to go with a well that is sanitized, is checked so that people don't come up with those kind of diseases that you always come up with.
Hey, wait a minute.
So anyway, to keep the people safe out there. So it's going to be kind of expensive, you know, in a way to put a real well down, you know, and dig it. But they have a company called B&B Well that has, you know, said that they will provide expertise, you know, in that area. But there's other options that they have rather than putting a well down.
Cisterns.
Cisterns, yeah. Not to be confused with brotherns.
I see.
But that we'll be back right after this, folks.
Oxford Orient Fish helps provide emergency aid to the people of Oxford, Lake Orion, Addison, and Oakland Townships. One of the only self-served food banks in the state, Oxford Orient Fish provides once-a-month food supplies based on the size of the family. To donate, volunteer, or to find out more, call Oxford Orient Fish at 248-628-3933 or go to their website, oxfordorientfish.org. Oxford Orient Fish, neighbors helping neighbors.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kennedy.
We are talking about pitch pumps over there in Leonard or Addison.
That's right, you crank.
Yeah, right. Watershed East and Watershed West. Well,
I
they
see.
said Watershed West is not such a priority, but Watershed East is. Boy, that was a mouthful, because that's where the school's at.
And
so forth.
the county says you can't drive a pipe into the ground and expect water to come out clean.
Without being tested and so forth.
Right.
But, and they, Charlie says, well, you just stick a shovel in and you get water. But no, that's not the way it works. So they said, well, why don't we put a well in and have it go to the school? That provides water for the school building. That doesn't have water right now.
The school building doesn't have water?
Yeah, this is the old school.
Oh,
The one on Watershed East.
what did they do before?
Before, the building wasn't there. They moved it.
Oh, well then.
It's a historical building.
Okay.
So they
That's
said,
what you do with historical buildings. You move them here, you move them there.
right. Well, it's going to stay here for a while, I think. But anyway, they said, well, why not, put water there, dig one well, and then have a outlet, a spigot on the outside of the building. That would provide water,
Oh,
for
good
plants and
idea.
so forth around the area. So yeah, they said, well, that would be great. And they said, well, what about the pitch pump, for Watershed West? They said, well, we can always hold off on that. We don't need to make a big push for it, but if we have the funding, eventually maybe we can look at that and putting a pump in there.
Why would a pitch pump in one area not be okay, and why would it be okay in another?
Well, because of the expense involved. They're going to have to dig a well. They cannot
Yeah.
take a pipe
So-
and pound it in.
But why would the one on the west take a pitch pump?
Oh, it won't.
But you just
It's
said it
going to be a
would.
well. Did I say that?
Yes.
Oh, on the west, yeah. No, on the west, they were talking about putting 2 pitch pumps in, one in the east and one in
Oh.
west. Have I got you straightened on this yet?
Well.
Probably not, folks, but I'll discuss this with them later. Anyway, so there will be water eventually. And they did discuss a water situation also at Lake George, that they're going to have to provide a source over there. There is a cistern. You mentioned that just briefly, but there is one over there, and they're not sure if they're going to use that or if they may use some other source.
Oh.
So that's going to be an issue that's going to come up in the future.
Cisterns
So-
have their own problems.
They do, yep. Want to explain that?
No. At least in Brazil they do.
Oh, yeah, they would in Brazil.
They're mosquito breeding grounds for the Zika virus.
Yeah, right now we don't have to worry about that because the mosquitoes have little coats on.
And besides, it's not summer yet, so watch out.
You're right, but they say it's going to go to Florida, but that's a different subject.
I'd like to go to Florida.
We could send you there.
Okay.
Okay.
To our
Do you
affiliate.
have to come back?
Why, do we have an affiliate down there?
No, we might have though. You could start one. Okay. Old business. Okay, we'll continue with that. And because it's pricey, we talked about the water situation. Now, over there on Watershed West, they said that the Ranger building is something that they need to continually maintain, and they'll do that this spring. Okay, so that's an issue that they kind of flew by. Soil top at Lake George. This spring they're going to have to put a layer of soil on, because remember they removed a home there, an old home, and some other buildings may disappear also.
Do they have
on Lake
basements or
George.
something, or what?
Well, it did have a basement, and they're going to fill it.
Okay.
So I believe they did fill it. They just didn't finish, top off the soil yet.
Okay.
And of course, they have some money. I think it's $15,000. I
yeah.
think for a dock.
Of course, once you fill
Gonna be
something like
putting
that,
in there.
it'll settle down after a while, and then you got to come back on it.
Yeah, especially if you're built on quicksand. No,
Oh,
they're actually built on a hill. Have you ever been over to Lake George?
No.
Oh, it's pretty neat. One side of the lake, of course, has homes on it. The side where this park is at, no homes. And very nice little lake over there.
Oh,
Actually has fish in it.
really?
Yeah, it does.
They don't have spots.
They don't have spots. No, not spotted fish, just regular fish. Anyway, so I'm trying to think. One of the commissioners, or one of the board members, said, well, what about the flyers? Because we need to get flyers out to the public, let them know what's going on. And they said, well, let's also include trail safety tips in the flyer, as well as rules and regulations for the park. And when they said rules and regulations for the park, Charlie says, oh, I make a suggestion. We put a sign, a big one, inside that says, read the rules and regulations on the park on the entrance.
Oh,
I thought that was pretty good. He says, because nobody reads them, even though it's well printed and well done. So anyway, they kind of sidestepped that one. They said, well, we'll have to put lights on or blinkers or something. We'll try to figure
either
that
that or
out
give them
later.
a waiver form that says, I have read the rules and regulations of the park.
Right. I've read them. Map of the trails, okay, again, part of this brochure. And a number of other things that could probably come into play here. Little hints on how to cook your raccoon, and you know, how to skin your possum, how to chase bears away.
Those parks are wilder than I thought.
Yeah, right. But anyway, little tips in there. And so if you folks have tips that you'd like to add in this flyer,
Especially cooking ones.
or non-cooking ones too, how to keep mosquitoes away. You know, there was a good one.
Run.
Run. No, those are bees.
Run fast.
Run fast, right. Okay, any new business, they said. Well, points of interest. Carol Benz said that she'd like to help one of the residents. And what she suggested is for the foliage and also points of interest, you know, on the trails, that they have labels, tags.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
dandelion,
stand up.
dandelion,
Yep.
dandelion,
Like
dandelion.
Things like, do not pet the porcupine. Do not kick the skunk. Things like that, you know. Watch out for the poison ivy.
Dandelion, dandelion, daisy, dandelion, dandelion.
Right. Poison oak. Be careful. Things like that. But anyway, it's a good idea. So
Yeah.
they thought, well, we'll do that. We'll
Poison
provide
oak.
little posters out there.
Yeah.
And by the way, they talked about these little posters, but
Have pictures.
right.
This
well,
is what a stinging nettle looks like. Don't touch.
Don't touch. Well, then just for curiosity, they'll touch it anyway.
Of course.
Excuse me, where is the first
that's
aid
the
kit?
old don't that's the old don't push this button.
Right. But anyway, the chairperson, Rod Lasik, he said, I have posters, he said, of interest, of points of interest for a park. And he said, I've been putting them up, there are one or two of them. He says, but they're in color, and he said, we use a plastic cover for them so they can weather the, you know, storm. You were going to say weather the weather?
No, not me.
I could see it coming this way. I know you were going to do that.
I would never correct you.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, so he said, you know, this would be a good idea too. And they agreed, you know. So they said, well, let's do that and let's put it up near the school, you know. So once they got past that, they said, well, what about fishing? Because I was approached, you know, one of the board members said, I was approached by a person in the park, and they said, how late can I fish? And they said, well, you better check the ice first because it's not such a good thing these days, you know, with the warming and cooling and so forth.
And we
people
don't want
have
to fish you
tendency-
out.
No. And even though Perch Pond isn't very deep, might be a problem, might be an issue.
That's where he falls through the ice and goes, help, I am standing in the water.
Right. They say, well, the regulation or the ordinance is from sun up to sunset. And one of the board members said, well, I think it reads 7 to 7, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the board member said, well, this person wants to extend that. And Bruce Pearson says, I don't think you want to do that. He said, because after dark, he says, how are you going to find them? So he said, we need to stick with the ordinance. So they pretty much agreed that they're not going to hunt for people that are lost out in the dark or drowning in the dark or try to fish them out. So anyway, with that, we'll be back right after this.
Woke up and for the first time, the animals were gone. Our clocks are ticking now, so before our time is gone, I cover my eyes, still all I see is you.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we have just been talking about Addison Township and Leonard and that area and the parks recreation, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's talk about the Oxford Township Planning Commission meeting headed up by Todd Bell. And by the way, I want to say that Todd Bell does a great job of conducting a meeting. He's very knowledgeable.
You looking for a job?
No. He controls the meeting very well, unlike what we do here. So anyway, so the first thing they did is cover the minutes. No minutes.
No minutes?
That was the fast one.
There were no minutes?
Yeah, they said non-agenda items for the public.
Oh.
And Kelly Rossner, Meyer, she said, well, I want to bring up the thing about the village, planning commission people and the township.
I mean, a joint meeting.
Right, the planning commission people with the township, or with the village, have indicated they'd like to have a joint meeting, or at least keep them informed of what's going on in the township. For example, there's a piece of property that they're going to rezone through the township. The village had no knowledge of it. So they said, in order to keep continuity, this would be a good thing to do. They had a discussion on it, and they agreed with Kelly.
Especially if it's contiguous property.
You still remember that word, don't you?
I sure do.
Well, it'll be back again, so you hang on to that word. Just won't be in this particular session. So anyway, good point. Callie did a great job in bringing that forward. Jack Curtis said we want to remind everybody that the 19th, April 19th is the deadline for people to file. There's a number of positions open on the township and the trustees board and other boards. Other boards are pretty much appointed by the trustees, though.
They wouldn't be boards, they'd be commissions.
They'd be commissions. Yep.
Right.
Or boards. Could be boards too.
Where do you,
Subcommittees. There's all kinds of things.
but they're not boards.
They might not be boards. It could be. Surfing.
No
surf
boards, no councils.
Right, whatever they are. Anyway, so that would be the township, and Jack Curtis brought that up. By the way, Jack has indicated that he hasn't really considered running again this year. Really, I'd like to see him run. He's pretty knowledgeable, and I think a good asset to the township and to the village too. He serves on the planning commission for the village, as a liaison. So,
Oh, he does?
Yep,
I
he
didn't know
does. Matter of fact, he brought that up when Kelly was talking about, having the communications, and he said, well, I can provide the minute information from the township meetings when I attend these other meetings,
Jack would
which
be
would be
a
a
good
good
guy for
thing.
that.
He would be. Subcommittees, they have a list of subcommittees like ZBA board and so forth that are pre-appointed by the trustees from the township, and went over that, provided a list for everybody, and said, if you're on one of these boards and you don't want to be, let me know. And we'll go from there. Master plan, they discussed that just briefly, and they said that property to be determined the maximum extent of usage for a piece of property.
We discussed the master plan last week, I think,
Yep.
and I forget which.
That was Leonard.
Leonard.
Yep.
And they were coming up on their 5-year renewal. Where
Yep.
does Oxford Township stand on that?
Same thing, every 5 years. Yep.
The same 5 years?
The same, well, depends on what their audit time is, or their,
You don't know.
well, I think it's not, every year I know it's got to take place, so I don't know if it's with their fiscal year, that it's figured, or if it's another date set by the state.
But there is a
be
5-year
a
cycle.
date by-
But there's a 5-year cycle.
Yeah, I want to think it's probably a time or a schedule set by the state that you have to, do this.
Or especially since it's 5 years.
It could be 5 years. We could extend it to 10, but be in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. So they did discuss property sizes and so forth, and then once he did that, it's quite a lengthy discussion between the commissioners. The first subject that came up of business was a company called Fathom Fireworks, and it's Richard Tapper is the guy that represented the company. And you remember they have fireworks for sale out next to the
Yeah, by the bowling alley.
by the bowling alley, by
Yeah.
Collier Lanes.
Sure.
And they did that last year. And by the way,
And they use volunteers for that, I believe.
well, they might use volunteers, I don't know, but you might be interested in knowing
'Cause I
that
think
they
that-
have to pay a permit fee of $5,000
A permit is $5,000?
for this.
That's a lot of firecrackers.
Yep. Yeah, right. And actually, Ed Hunwick says, how long are you going to be there? He said, about 11 days. He said, $5,000?
Can we prorate that a little?
There was silence. Anyway, they did have a discussion on, it shouldn't be this much because it involved, the planner and a lot of other things, in order to make
So
sure there's proper parking. And
Does the farmer's market have to do the same thing?
I don't know how much they pay, but that's a village thing.
Oh, okay.
They're in the village, whereas this would be in the township.
Okay.
So,
It should be similar. I mean, after all, they're,
Well,
trying,
you
to, they're trying
think-
to match up their zoning. And
yeah,
everything.
you would think it should be, but it may not be, and probably isn't. I don't think the village would charge $5,000 per
That almost seems punitive.
Yeah, so anyway, this guy says, would you please look at this? So it doesn't cost quite so much, maybe? And so they said, well, we'll see, what we can do with this.
Especially since our anticipated revenues are 4,000? Oh,
Right.
no.
He said, well, we'd like to have a 5-year, permit for this.
Oh.
And Commissioner Berger, he said, no. He said, I disagree with that. He said, because things could change in the next year or two. He said, maybe the property behind it, people want to sell it, and they want to purchase this property too. So, for development purposes, we don't really want to tie the property down just because of a permit. So they discussed this and they said, hey, you're right. So they did approve the permit for the gentleman, so he's ready to go for this summer.
But how much are they going to charge him?
Well, it's going to be a little less than 5,000. It was 5,000 originally, but because they won't have,
They didn't come up with a number, did they?
no.
Okay.
And I'm sure that'll be taken care of through the office, so, and however it'll work out. So, that being said, that took care of the fireworks. There they go.
All right.
Manitou Hills is a development
For condos.
for, no, well, actually there are 20 homes that they want to put in there, 20
Homes
unit
or
homes.
condos?
No, these are homes for Manitou Hills, and it's on Manitou Lake,
I see.
just off Dakota Court,
Uh-huh.
which is next to Lakes of Indianwood, Lakes of Indianwood. And that's where,
Sure they're homes and not condos?
no, these are homes, 20 homes it said. That's what it said in the last information that I had, from the meeting. So, wait a minute, you doing this or am I? Hold on. All right, tell me more.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I got you there, didn't I? Okay, yeah.
I'll
it
let
says-
you string out that rope.
Anyway, they said 20 homes. But anyway, so they had been before the Planning Commission before and taken care of some specifics. And the attorney for the township, Susan Morrison, actually submitted a letter and said these are some things that we would expect would have to happen in order for this development to go in. Well, also the president of the Home Association,
Which one is that, from Manitou? Or
no,
for the
from
other one?
Indian Lakes,
Indian Lake.
came and made a couple of requests.
Okay.
They said, first of all, the road that comes through there is our road, and we're concerned about traffic and damage to the road.
Is it a private road?
It's a public road. That's a good point, because that came up. And can we restrict the
So
flow of traffic?
our road is a little bit overdone
Yeah.
while they're doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you cannot restrict, as it was pointed out, the traffic usage. If you're from California or wherever, you can use that road because it's public road. So, that being said, this thing went on and a lot of conversation occurred and discussion about, sewage systems, water retainment. There is some land there that would be, well, I call it swamp land, but they can't build on that, of course. And
Or
so,
as the conservationists would call it, wetlands.
yep, wetlands. That's a fancy word for swamp.
Well,
But anyway, they discussed that, and the owner of the property is not going to actually be building a home, but the contractors will be selling the home. The property owner will just provide the property as they're being sold, is the way it's going to be worked out. And he said they just assume, this swampland, wetlands, would be put in conservatory or something along that line, so they wouldn't have to deal with it. But as it came back, it has to be part of the plan and the deed. So anyway, there's more going on there, and if you want to see more, go to our website, occ.org, and click on programs, and you'll see the Planning Commission meeting for January 28th, and lots of things going on in the community. What's going on in the community as far as you're concerned?
there are meetings. We do have meetings. And on February 9th at 6:30, the Village of Oxford Council, and at 7:30, the Addison Township Planning Commission, and on 2/10 at 6:30, the Oxford Board of Education, and at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Board will be meeting. And on 2/11, at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Planning Commission, and at 7:30, the Addison Township ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, and at 2:15, at 6 p.m., the Village of Oxford Downtown Development Authority. You're going to have so much stuff to work with next week, it's going to be unbelievable.
Oh, gee, I can hardly wait. How about you? I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
This is Minutes by Minutes. We'll catch you here next week.
See you then.